Welcome to Disrupting Japan. Straight talk from Japan's most innovative founders and VCs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for joining me. This is a short episode. I wanted to share with you a panel discussion I moderated at the Global Corporate Venturing Asia Congress on the role that CVCs are playing in the green energy transition. It's an inside look at what some of the leaders in the field are thinking. You'll hear from Sophia Nadur, the Managing Director of APAC and Middle East at BP Ventures, Nicole LeBlanc, a partner at Woven Capital, and Jim Aota, Chairman of Yamaha Motor Ventures. You know, outside of the industry, a lot of people are surprised to learn just how active and supportive of startups global energy and transport companies can be, and how they're working to push meaningful innovations into the marketplace. So here are some quick insights into how some of the world's leading energy-related companies are working with startups to green our power system and transition us all to a sustainable future. We talk about the specific kinds of startups we're looking to invest in, the different ways we have to support and work with startups, and what we see as the most exciting energy startup trends for the next 3 to 5 years. But you know, the panel tells that story much better than I can. So let's get right to the interview.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward. We're going to be talking about how CVCs are supporting and fueling the growth of energy startups all over the world. And to start off, I'd like to do brief introductions, because there's 4 of us here. So I'm Tim Romero. I'm a partner at JERA Ventures. JERA is a Japanese electric utility. We generate about a third of Japan's electricity. We're investing in decarbonization, new business models in energy, and looking for the best companies globally to bring to Japan. I also, for the last 10 years, have been running the Disrupting Japan podcast that talks about VCs and startups in Japan. And this is important because this is being recorded to release on the podcast, so you are all part of the show.
Hi, everybody. Nicole LeBlanc. I'm a partner with Woven Capital and longtime listener of Tim's podcast. So we're the growth venture fund for Toyota. So we look at growth stage companies typically that are able to work with Toyota across a number of different sectors. So energy that we're about to talk about here is certainly one, but also looking at supply chain, automation. And if you think about mobility 3.0, connected cars, that sort of thing. Our team is mainly based here in Tokyo, including myself, but we also have people in the US and in the UK.
Hi, I'm Sophia Nadur, MD for Asia Pacific and Middle East at BP Ventures. BP Ventures is a global energy company. I am delighted to have Masaki Okada-san, who's the head of BP Japan, with me. Such is the importance that we are placing on looking for investments in Japan right now. We have $850 million assets under management. We invest $150 million at least every year from our balance sheet. We invest in Series A, Series B, potentially Series C companies who are scaling up energy transition related offers, which could include battery storage, offshore wind, solar, hydrogen, mobility, even retail and convenience. Even these areas are of interest to us, and we're actively looking to invest in Japan. We have 2, nearly 3 investments in India, 2 in China, and 2 in Australia, just in this region alone.
Right, so my name is Jim Aota, and I am the chairman of the Yamaha Motor Ventures. But it's the same as the cause of the Sony Ventures talking about. I have a double hat. So one is a Sony, one of the Yamaha Motor Corporation of the new business development head. And also I'm taking care of the Yamaha Motor Ventures chairman's positions. Typically, it's a Yamaha Motor Ventures chairman's position is taking care of the investment committee, which is a Yamaha Motor Ventures in the Silicon Valley is taking care of it. Lots of the sourcing activity, decision-making processes. So we got a setting up for the IC from the LP's point of view. It's a 1 LP, 1 GP structure, we have it. And currently, we are running the $300 million commitment fund in the United States, which is going to be one fund for the startup side, and the second is a follow-on. And I gotta have the separate fund which is focused on to the sustainability side. So the three fund is side by side structures, and we gotta going to focus on. But typically, it's compared with the size of the Toyota or VPs, my investment theme is a little bit narrower. So I don't know how much can contribute for the energy sector's conversation here, but we'll try. So
I think you can contribute quite a bit from our earlier discussions. But one point I want to kick us off on. So traditionally, energy startups have been very capital intensive. It's taken a long time to bring them to an exit. So it's been an area that CVCs have been playing an active role in. But if you follow GCV research, as I'm sure we all do here, we know that just very recently, CVCs are no longer providing the majority of investment capital to energy startups, that institutional financial VCs have now taken the lead. So I want to get your thoughts on what is the best role that CVCs can play here. What is the unique value that we add within this ecosystem? And Sophia, I know you've spent a lot of time thinking and working on this. So what are your thoughts here?
I think if you think about the infrastructure institutional investors, the banks, the financial institutions, they don't want to take any technology risk. They're okay, even with a bit of business model risk. But the value that we bring as folks here in this room and many people here is that we can help the companies very early stage overcome some of the technology hurdles, using maybe some of the resources within our own company to be able to run pilots and POCs and programs to help ensure that the product service has market fit, and then also to overcome business model innovation challenges. And that's still a service that we offer. And that's what I think why VCs and CVCs will have an enduring role to play as this energy transition progresses, irrespective of how, let's say, infra-heavy this particular part of the transition will be.
So is BP pretty hands-on in that respect? Do you actually like pull engineers out of the field and work with the startups and that kind of thing?
That's a good question. So we invested in a geothermal company a few years ago in Canada. And you might think geothermal is essentially looking at underground heating and then basically pulling that heating to heat homes and businesses above ground. But to get that, you need to drill wells 4.5 kilometers below the surface of the earth. To do that, it might be useful to have drilling engineering experience. And that's what we found in terms of the real value that BP has offered to this startup. And now this startup has drilled a well 4.5 kilometers below the surface of the earth in Bavaria, in Germany. And a lot of that support and expertise have come from within BP. And that helps accelerate the scale up of this young company.
Fantastic. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Probably a little bit different point of view what Sophia is talking about. So, for example, Yamaha Motor, we established the company in 1955, and that is a spin-off venture of the Yamaha Music. So we have the music business, but suddenly the top management team decided we got to make motorcycle. So it's kind of the startup mindset we started back in 1955. And believe it or not, my city is called as Hamamatsu City. You can take a Shinkansen from here. It's 1.5 hours away from here. We got to have over 80 plus motorcycle company in town. So it's kind of the expansion of the venture time in that city. And now you can imagine for the Japanese motorcycle company, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, we totally going over for the consolidation phase. And we got to making the company as very quality, high quality recognition from the customer side. So from the company who is building up startup now, probably what we can help is how we can make the company better from the large corporation point of view. So we have some history and we got to do something on this so we can tell something to the startup company. So that is the things we can help them to raising their bar or maybe getting into the market much higher space. But other than that, very difficult. Like a Sophia can tell more about what's going to be our energy transitions. But my job is the people who has a passion. They wanted to change the world. And how we can help. I think that's the only point I can do this in the CVC point of view.
Well, I think Yamaha's in a really interesting position. And a lot of people forget that companies like Yamaha and Honda were incredibly disruptive in the 50s and 60s. It was just redefined what a motorcycle was. and in the ensuing decades have built up an incredible engineering expertise. So is it really, when you say increasing quality, is it that engineering, that suitability for market? What aspect do the startups find most valuable?
I think it's a large manufacturing corporation always comparing with a startup and myself, and they are not. We are better. And it's really true, actually. But from the day one, you don't need this kind of level of things. You have to kind of a step one, step two, step three approach. And you have to have at least minimum you need to this. So I think those things is very difficult to tell. And the person who knows it, interestingly, is a very old person in my organization. So it's not the younger generation having a big passion to help them. It's actually I'm using very old people's knowledge because they experienced on this.
So it's a matter of sort of translating the precision engineering expertise from the older generation to the startups to explain why they need that, and taking the startup innovation and explaining to the older generation like why they need that, right?
Yeah, it's like a both side of the big contribution because we gotta learn something, especially for the middle management or younger generations watching what kind of conversation is happening of the very passionate new guys who is changing the world.
All right.
And the guy who has a big history and the knowledge what they did it. So that's pretty much a joy for me actually watching on it. And the only things I can do is a translation, probably. And also how we gotta tell to the other people what's happening in here.
Excellent. Nicole?
Building on that, often at CVCs, we have two stakeholders. We have our internal stakeholders and our business units, and then we have our external stakeholders, which are our portfolio and our companies. And one of the things we really try to do at Woven Capital is marry those two together so that we actually can find out the best outcomes and become a superpower. As CVCs, we really have the best jobs in the world. We really do, because we have these engineers and these people that are building products in the market. And, if you want to know what's going on, what the market size is or what the key challenges are in the market, we probably have 20, 50, 100 engineers, on our teams that we can go ask. And then we're also out in the market talking to startups. We know what's coming down the line. We know, what the really disruptive kind of entrepreneurial people are thinking. And we can really bring those two worlds together. So it's really fun, I find, like my job every day. And so we really try to figure out how do we institutionalize that? How do we productize that and make a clear process around that within our fund? So we have the investment team, and most of us are these professional finance people, the boring people that show up and show the numbers, but we know how to do due diligence. We know how to make investments. We know how to manage a portfolio. And that's really important because that skill set often doesn't exist within a product company that's trying to build cars or build energy resources or something like that. And then we have what we call portfolio success. Some people might call it business development team. And their job is to really work with the business units and really understand their needs, maybe do some translation, and really try to communicate with the startup. This is what Toyota needs. And then communicate to Toyota, this is what the startup wants to do. And really make sure that there's a clear, transparent dialogue with clear milestones. And so that we're both getting value out of that. And by really trying to kind of bridge these two worlds, we're really trying to find the best way to have a really great relationship so that our investment can actually grow. We can, hopefully be a logo, a customer, and really help drive their revenue, but also help Toyota and a big company be innovative and know what's going on in the market. So that's really what we're trying to do as a growth stage fund, because we're working with companies that are at the scale where they can really help, Toyota grow and really kind of take on some new innovative projects.
Excellent. Sophia, one of the comments you made got me thinking. So I'm just going to ask everyone to speculate wildly on this. So I was mentioning that for the first time in a very long time, VC investments are making up the bulk of energy investments. Do you think this is just a result of the market maturing and that a lot of projects are suddenly bankable and banks and traditional institutions are just more comfortable investing? Or is it just a gold rush to what I think we all think is the most exciting investment opportunity of the next 20 years?
I think it's probably on two tracks. You have what's called, I think, the low-hanging fruit. So mobility, the electrification of transport as part of the energy transition has been sort of, I think, first out the block. In India, for instance, we have invested in a ride-hail company, which you might think, why are we investing in a ride-hail company? But there's a lot of electrons flowing from a charging point of view, and that's helped our JV in India scale up EV charging infrastructure faster, which helps enable the entire value chain to move quicker to an electrified transportation sector. So that's one example. And actually, that also encouraged the OEM to also expand its electric cars and trucks production. So having the anchor demand partners and building that has been huge. And I think that has built belief. So once you start seeing, I think, the right building blocks, so you've got the CVCs, the VCs investing, proving it, it then starts bringing big infra capital behind. And we're seeing that not just in so-called ride-hail pass cars, but we've also invested in a last-mile logistics company. And that's also been scaling up now the production output of electric trucks in India. And watch this space. We're doing it in another transport sector in India. And that as well then fuels belief, not just in transport, but in what I call the second track, which is the clean molecules space, which is also quite hard to decarbonize.
So I guess in a sense, what is considered to be energy investment has also expanded. It's a lot bigger than it used to be.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's hard because some of the energy transition uses technology that is well known. It's very well known. It's stuff that's been around for decades. It's just been repurposed.
But that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
It's a very good thing.
We don't always want to be moonshotting.
Indeed.
Before we wrap up, I really want to get everyone's quick take on what they think, what's most exciting in energy over the next 3 to 5 years. Really briefly, because our clock is ticking down. So, Jim, kick us off. What are you most excited about?
If I can talk about not the CVC point of view, we have a lot. But from the CVC point of view, especially my investment theme, still electrification for us, actually. Probably this is not the topic for the energy companies looking at, but for us, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience to transfer myself, or we got to stay dual track, or we got to stay in the internal combustion engine footprint. So it's big chance for us, or maybe big risk for us. So this is going to be kind of from my company's point of view, we got to be watching carefully all over the world because each country has a different opinion and the different circumstances. So we need more sensors and we need more understanding about every market. So pretty much narrow, but this is going to be the most important things for me.
Okay. Sophia?
3 things excite me. Transport, electrification of transport, to your point. It is fundamental to the energy transition. And we're seeing solutions. And the key now is how do we scale them across the world? Could be electric, could be hydrogen, could be hybrids. But for me, transport and that transition really excites me. I've been an EV driver for the last 8 years, and I'm a huge advocate wherever I go. And I think it's something that is important. Also, I think bioenergy is becoming something I am becoming more and more passionate about. We've got so much, let's say, waste in the world. How do we put that to more productive use? But also, how do we make sure that we find new ways of providing energy to both businesses and consumers? And the third area is grid resilience. Why am I excited about it? Why do I wake up and think, ooh, grid resilience? Just in Japan, it's over 350 gigawatt of grid resilience power is going to be required to be managed by 2040. One country. There's a lot to go after. And how do we ensure that all the different types of energy flow through and meet demand of customers and businesses? And so that keeps me up.
Excellent.
I have 3 as well. The first one echoing electrification. So vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, as more EVs get on the road, that really unlocks new business models. It really helps transition a lot of OEMs like us into kind of the new mobility and mobility 3.0 and where that goes. So that's really exciting. Second one is hydrogen. Toyota makes a really great fuel cell. And although there are some challenges in the short-term market, by 2030, hydrogen really has a role to play in the energy mix. And the third one is actually not a thesis area. It's it's actually the types of entrepreneurs and founders I'm seeing enter the energy market. There are a lot of women. There are a lot of people that don't come from an energy background, and they really just see this as an opportunity to make change. And, 10 years ago in VC, I used to get calls from people saying, I'm thinking of making a change. This is what I want to do. What do you think? Now I'm like, I've quit my job. I've given myself 6 months to do a company in X, Y, or Z. Typically with regards to sustainability or energy, what advice do you have for me? So it's really exciting to see like the new perspectives that are coming into the industry.
And I had my own, which is storage in all of its various forms. I think storage is the key to solving our transmission problems, distributed generation. I tend to view electric vehicles as just storage on wheels. But it's going to be an exciting 3 to 5 years, that's for sure. So please, let's thank our panel. That was really great. Thank you so much.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed hearing this panel discussion, and please let me know if you want to hear more. But most of all, thanks for listening. And thank you for letting people interested in Japanese startups and VCs know about the show. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening to Disrupting Japan.